All right, those just tuning in, we just finished up our matchup. The World Eaters versus the Blood Angels. Bloody combat right in the middle of the field with a final score. World Eaters 73 to a Blood Angel 65. Weird game because of the threat of heroic intervention.
Yeah, it was wild. Especially because you had to fight first on one of your battle line units. So that made it super strong. And I had 4 battle line units on the table at different points. So even though we didn't actually use it a whole lot, the threat of it was always there, and we had to play around it. Both of us had to play around it the whole game. Yeah,
I used the heroic intervention, or I had the threat of it. The biggest place of it was on the Master of Execution, which I didn't like the free heroic intervention enhancement. I love it now. Like that was just incredible on how much it changes of like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's like, here this squad is that's going to fight first and heroic intervene and just shred through things.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And it also led into a very strong combo with that blood for the blood god stratagem, which that's amazing. I love that stratagem.
Yeah, at one point you have 4 blessings up at the same time. It was brutal. The turn I did a bunch of damage to you, you just did about the same amount of damage back to me because of the fight on death and the sustained and everything just going to it. I don't think we really missed the rerolls from Angron.
No, I think the sustained being it, like I had sustained up when we were really getting into combat. I had sustained up a lot, and I think that made up for the rerolls. I felt like, because I felt a lot of times where I'd roll the dice, I'd go, oh, I missed with 2. Sustain with 2. So I was just putting the dice back in off the sustain. Sometimes I'd drop like a dice or 2, and then other times I pick up 3 or 4 more. So it washed itself there and was really able to shred. The big kicker was, like you said, like once it was into my turn, I hit you and I killed a unit and then did the Blessing of Khorne. I'm like, bam, now I'm fight on death. And then I was able to get the Feel No Pain off of, or I think I did it the other way. I think I went Feel No Pain and then went into fight on death off that fight first. So that fight first was huge to be able to go, okay, I'm going to get another blessing out of this and just keep pulling this through. So that was kept the engine just moving. And as you saw, that really did. I mean, at the end of the game, I didn't have much left because, I was going into that Land Raider trying to reduce hero points, and that Land Raider was just bunkered in and was able to just blast everything that got close to it. But all around, I had a lot more fun with this build than I did with the Angron build.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a lot more play. I mean, I think you've had a little more practice with World Eaters now, another game with them. So using the stratagems. This is the first
time without Angron.
The sticky objectives was huge in this game just because at the end you didn't have anything left, but I didn't have enough to go and take the objectives you had stickied. So you're able to score pretty well on primary, even with not that many units left on the table.
Right. And getting the Jackals to just move around the field and do that stuff, like right at that moment, I was like, okay, well, we're going to do this. Here we go. Advance in charge, spend a command point, auto advance 6, and just crash them on the center, and then sticky that, and then it just allowed me to keep scoring those points, and that's something I could do moving forward. Not impressed with the Winged Demon Prince. The AP2 was kind of rough. I honestly would probably rather have just another Demon Prince or another squad of 8-bound, like the Exalted 8-bound. The Exalted 8-bound were just incredible. How much they hit, how much damage they did. They were just absolutely incredible. But I wouldn't mind giving him a second chance because he was going at a Land Raider. And I mean, it is a Land Raider, Yeah,
with Armor of Contempt, because Armor of Contempt
too.
And definitely I made a couple extra saves with Armor of Contempt that kept that Land Raider in the game a little bit longer.
So I know that definitely the heroic intervention was a brain breaker for this. Let's talk a little bit about these Blood Angels and the Land Raiders. How did that? I do like the fact that, like, when you had the Land Raiders posted up on each side, they were really tough. They're still super tough to take down. They have a lot of firepower from the multi-meltas, the assault cannons, the hurricane bolters, and everything. And it's just a pillbox of damage that was just on one objective, on another objective. That's OC5. How did you like that feel of just having those there and in everything with like the defensive array?
Oh, I thought they were great. I think in the future, I'm going to try. I may try other competitive. Like this was just six captains for funsies, right? I think I may try another list with 2 Land Raiders, because and not hold myself to 6 captains, maybe try some other things, because there's definitely some other things we can put in there that'll jump out and hit real hard too. Just trying to find the most efficient way. I do think I preferred, even though I lost this game, I do prefer having more MSU units to come out there, more small units to come out and do work. And the reroll wounds with the assault intercessors was huge, so it's definitely a big help there.
Yeah, I think.
So I'm going to keep playing with it, but I definitely think it has play, it has work, it gives me a big threat range, because again, I can get guys out before the Land Raider moves. I can move the Land Raider, then get guys out, and they can still charge. It gives a tremendous amount of flexibility.
Do you think you might try the double Land Raider in not Blood Angels? Like in a different Marine chapter that might give you more of.
Why are you trying to get me off of Blood Angels? What are you, why are you
no. Seriously, just curious. Maybe would you consider going to something that had like a heavier range threat, like the Vanguard, that also gives you like the up-down strat combined with something like Centurions? I mean, we're getting kind of costly here, 2 Land Raiders and Centurions, but just wondering what's going on in your head. If you think like maybe going on to that shooting route of it, do you feel like a unit with sticky objectives might be efficient as well?
No, I mean, regular intercessors are the only sticky thing Marines have, and I'm not going to take them. They're
terrible.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing that they have, bolt guns, and that's it. I guess in Blood Angels, if they do charge, they would be up to strength 6, but it's just they don't
have the combat.
They do one thing, which is sit on an objective and sticky it. They don't really contribute any other way. I like things that can at least do multiple things, but
Gotcha.
But no, I think packing lots of things into a Land Raider is really good, more so for close combat units. For shooting armies, I probably wouldn't focus on things in Land Raiders as much. Things in repulsors are more interesting because the shooting units can get out, and then if they're charged, they can get back in. That's the special rule of the repulsor. So it makes more sense for a shooting army in that case to use like a repulsor. But I think the Land Raiders, especially because we can get the Crusaders up to transport capacity of 16, you just pack so much. And I may not be done with Hero Hammer with Blood Angels yet, because I may just try. I may just try running things like Dante by himself, because he's still a beast.
Just put 16 characters in one.
Dante's got 9 attacks on the charge. He's a jump pad guy, so he just takes up 2 units. But just having him in there shooting out of a Land Raider with a disembark and a 12-inch move, 15-inch move plus his charge, bonkers. And then he's 130 points and still slaps real hard. Again, 9 attacks, so that'll be strength, I think 9 or 10 on the charge with AP 3, 2 damage. He'll do some work by himself. So I definitely want to play around with it more, because I think the concept is real good, especially with Blood Angels, because you can get smaller units or individual characters and just plus up their ability to do damage when they come out.
I was still really happy with the 6-man 8-bound. I know some people are like, oh, break it up and stuff like that. I felt like the 6-man 8-bound did great because they got hit early. You did a lot of damage to them. And I was still able to have 2 models left to give that aura of reroll 1s. And I remember how many times we're going through, you're like, oh, they're still rerolling 1s, or oh, they're rerolling all the wounds. Oh, that's an aura. And that pushed through further in the game. And the other thing, like you mentioned with Dante, we were discussing, is some of these characters that are powerful, and you can put them as leaders for squads, but they don't really give as much. Like Invocatus gives fallback and charge. Okay, that's great. But, you know, it's kind of situational. And him by himself, this game, him by himself has done more than any of the other games that I've played and run him.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't attached to a threat, so he fell down the priority chain. He's still able to club. He's still very powerful. And then at the end of the game, right there in that moment when I rolled those dice, it was hilarious. He's a 12-inch move, because he's a 12 and the Juggernaut's a 10 for some reason. He's a 12-inch move, went +2 move, so he's a 14-inch move. Then I auto-advanced him 6, so I just went 20 inches across the field.
I know. I saw it happen.
and then was able to charge and remove the last of those guys. Because if I didn't take them down, there was the possibility, and I know you were looking at it, I was looking at it too, they could have auto-advanced 6 or done something and hit my home field objective marker, which wouldn't have given you the game, but it would have knocked 3 points off me and would have brought us now to a 5-point game, where we're at an 8-point game, which is still very close. Still very, very close, especially considering I had 1 model left to your 6 models left, and one of yours was a Land Raider. I thought about going after those guys. If I didn't, excuse me, it's like if I didn't have secure no man's land, that Demon Prince was set to go rushing over and try and club them, which now, again, this is one of those times of looking at the scoreboard and thinking about those things because, I mean, I didn't need to, but had I killed that squad with the Demon Prince, then you lost primaries. I lost a couple of points on Secure No Man's Land, but then you lost 8, 9, 10 points on primaries. So things like that are important. It didn't matter for this game. Those are things I probably really got to look into for it because I could have just hit them, ripped them off the objective. Then you lost your home field objective. You couldn't have tagged the middle objective. You weren't able to do whatever the other secondary you had. I think you had one other secondary you scored off that too. I can't remember the last turn. But it's stuff that I need to look at more. It's hard to even read in those situations of just going, okay, which one do I score? Which one is the better breakdown? It's not necessarily how do I score more. It's how do I keep that gap more. And it's something I think both of us need to look at more because it's just, you play the game, you're like, okay, I need to score these points. I keep score. And most of the time it's like, oh, look, I score 100. Nothing else matters. You know, looking at that for eliminating your opponent's points in it too. And I think it's tough. It's definitely tough. But I am tired. How about you?
Yeah, I'm ready to call this one.
Yeah, that was a battle in the middle. That was definitely that one moment in like turn 3 or 4, whatever, or turn like 2 or 3, right in that whole thing in the center fight. That was where the game came down to, is like the back and forth of it. It was really intense, very interesting, because even though it was just, oh, charge and run, it was a matter of activating strats, activating units. The Blessings of Khorne, huge on that, man. Love it. I'm very happy with it. I enjoyed this army so much more without Angron. So I'll look forward to running it again. And now it gives me motivation to start working on and painting it, especially that bad boy right there. Yeah. That's the Demon Prince, man. He was awesome. He was really awesome. That 4-up invuln was great. He was able to do damage and pick stuff up. He was all around an excellent unit. Very glad I used him. All right, let's call it a night. Well, as always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.